Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first ever episode of BCTV. I'm your host, Brennan Capozzi, and with me today I have Michael Abmont, sophomore at Sacred Heart University. Mike, thank you for being here today.
Yeah, of course.
So, today we're going to talk about the New York Yankees. You know, they had a very interesting 2020 season, and it
You can
was,
call it that.
yeah, and then it got very interesting before the season started. So let's just dive right into it. So obviously the COVID-19 pandemic, it screwed a lot of people over in this world. But we got back to a little bit of normalcy when Major League Baseball decided to have a 60 game season. It's always better than nothing, you know?
Yep.
So the Yankees had high expectations this season, especially coming in. They signed Garrett Cole to a 9-year, $324 million deal. To be honest, when I saw that deal, I was very excited.
I was excited, but I thought it was risky signing a pitcher to 9 years. You're expecting that arm to go a long way.
Yeah, absolutely. So another thing with the COVID-19 pandemic that actually benefited the Yankees is that it gave them time to recover from injuries. Aaron Judge had an injury. Giancarlo Stanton had an injury. Aaron Hicks and James Paxton had an injury.
Went in for Tommy Johns before the season, and COVID and all that hit. He went in for Tommy Johns, and waiting until July when they started allowed him to hopefully get back, and he started the season pretty well.
Yeah. Well, let's dive right into the Yankees 2020 season. Well, they ended with a 33-27 record. They finished in second place behind the Tampa Bay Rays. And they honestly had a really strong start to the season.
Yeah, they went 8-2 in their first 10 games. They had a 7-game win streak starting against their last game against the Nationals in that first series. But after that, it kind of just they were struggling along the way.
Yeah, they had a very up and down season, but I think we can all agree their biggest challenge was the up and coming Tampa Bay Rays.
Oh, the Rays had their number the entire season. I mean, they only went 2-8 against the Rays for the entire season. Like, you got to do a little bit better than that if you're the New York Yankees.
Well, yeah, and one thing coming into the Tampa Bay Rays season is that they had the lowest payroll in baseball, and the Yankees had one of the highest. They have Garrett Cole's contract, Giancarlo Stanton's massive contract, Aaron Judge, obviously. So they had their struggles against the Tampa Bay Rays, but the really big success that they had was against the Toronto Blue Jays.
Oh yeah, especially that what was their last series against the Blue Jays? That they went 3 games with double-digit runs scored. I mean, as a Yankee fan, I can't ask for anything more than that, when it comes down to it.
Yeah, like you just said, like that 10-game win streak. On August 9th, the Yankees won 7-2, and that started the 10-game win streak. And before that streak, the Yankees were an even 500 at 21-21, so this was a big boost for them. And like you mentioned before, they had 3 double-digit run games against Toronto for a combined 43 runs in that 3-game series from August 15th to the 17th in Yankee Stadium.
I mean, as a fan watching it, it looked like the pick-me-up that the team desperately needed to roll into the playoffs. But after that 10-game win streak, they went 2-8 in their last 10 games, and only won 1 out of the 3 against Miami.
Yeah, that was the one thing. Like the Miami Marlins, I was very shocked when they were losing those games, but Miami did make the playoffs.
Good for Don Mattingly. He's shown that he's proved himself as not only a manager, but he completely turned a team around. Like the last time they were in the playoffs was 2003 when they won the World Series.
Yeah, no, Don Mattingly, former New York Yankee, has his number retired in Monument Park.
23, baby.
That's a fantastic thing. So, unfortunately, the Yankees lost in the ALDS of Game 5 against the Tampa Bay Rays. Aroldis Chapman blew it again. Jose Altuve, the year before and this year, he gave up another home run late.
That seems to be the story of Chapman, though. It's that last batter up. He gets the first 2 outs, with 100-plus mile-per-hour pitches, and then he just struggles getting that last final out. It's either Jose Altuve's home run or, this year he just – was it a home run this year or no? It wasn't. It was just –
in the 8th inning?
Yeah.
That was a home run, yeah.
It was.
Solo shot, bottom of the 8th.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's great when you can pitch 100-plus miles per hour, but if you can't, dial it in precisely where you need the ball to be, it doesn't really help.
Yeah. So I'll ask you this question, Mike. Do you think the Yankees should consider trading Aroldis Chapman this offseason?
No, I still don't think they should consider trading him, and I don't think they will. Because yeah, he struggles postseason with that last out when it counts, but compared to everything else he's done, he's still, I think, one of the top closers, at least in today's game. So if they want to shop around the market for it, they could. I don't think they will, though.
Good point. And like, even though he has blown it in the past 2 seasons, he's still a all-star caliber pitcher. He has all the stuff that you want in a closer. It's just that he's made some mistakes. So the Yankees, and unfortunately, ended their season thanks to another Aroldis Chapman blown save, if you want to say that, bottom of the eighth inning home run. But there are some positives. There are two players that stood out to me throughout the 2020 season: DJ LeMahieu and Luke Voigt.
My boy Luke, leading the league in home runs. Man, that was just amazing thing to watch, just to see him, home run after home run, especially when they needed it. And with LeMahieu, too. If you put those two guys in first and second in the lineup, you get LeMahieu easy, at least a double, and then Luke Voigt comes up with a home run. That's some serious damage right there.
Yeah, no, so to go over the stats for both of them, DJ LeMahieu, a 364 average, he had 10 home runs, 27 RBIs, 421 slugging percentage, and a 1.011 on-base percentage. And Luke Voigt had a .277 average, a league-leading 22 home runs, 52 RBIs, .338 slugging percentage, and a .948 on base percentage. So they really stepped up, because when it comes to the Yankees, you expect Giancarlo Stanton, Gary Sanchez, Aaron Judge to step up to the plate. But these are two players that really kind of shocked the Yankee fan base on their performance this season.
You got to remember, when Luke Voigt came, he was coming from the St. Louis Cardinals. They thought he was good, but they didn't think he was a big name. When LeMahieu came from the Rockies, he had a National League batting title, but other than that, they just thought he was, a replacement player. These two guys come to the Yankees in 2019 and completely blow the doors wide open on the place.
Yeah, and the funny thing about it is that from a personal experience, so when we got DJ LeMahieu, that was the Manny Machado sweepstakes.
That was.
And Manny Machado came to Yankee Stadium, and everyone said, we want Manny Machado. And you look at his deal with the Padres, 10 years, I believe, for $300 million.
Something like that, yeah.
He's been productive, but DJ LeMahieu's been a stud.
And especially because he could play any of the bases. Last year with the injuries, they had him playing third, second, first. This year, they were bouncing him around, mainly staying on second, but he was bouncing around all over the place. He is just a workhorse in the infield.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And when you look at DJ LeMahieu, he signed a 2-year, $24 million deal. That's a steal for the New York Yankees. And with the production,
for a player of that caliber.
And for the production that they got out of him, those are really great thing of Brian Cashman and that front office to acquire him. So we're going to move on from the offensive side, and we're going to go to the defensive side. We're going to go over to two players that stood out, in my opinion, and they're both Gold Glove finalists for the 2020 season. Gio Urshela and Clint Frazier. What do you think about that?
Clint Frazier and Gio Urshela, I love to watch them play baseball. I mean, Urshela on third for, my parents who always talk about Greg Nettles when he played third base in, the 70s. And who can forget that 70s Yankee team? Thurman Munson, Reggie Jackson, Greg Nettles, all those big names. But, they compare him to Greg Nettles. Greg Nettles was always flying around third base, getting good outs, getting good catches. The way Urshela moves the ball around is exciting to watch. And Frazier in the outfield, finally he's getting some of the attention he deserves with this season. I mean, last season with the injuries, he got a good couple starts and a lot of playing time, but they were constantly sending him up and down from the minors. And I felt he didn't deserve that, but with the limitation on the rosters. But now, especially now coming with this next season, because of what he did this season, he's going to see a lot of playing time in that outfield.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Clint Frazier stood up, especially when Aaron Judge was out for some time throughout the 2020 season. He really showed he had the glove, he had the bat, he was the total package. But Gio Urshela is the one that interests me the most, because he was no one really knew who he was in Cleveland.
Another player like Voigt and like LeMahieu. These teams just said, "You're good, but we don't see you getting any better. So they trade him to the Yankees. And once players put on those pinstripes, something changes in them, man. I'm telling you.
Yeah, no, it's very it's just awesome just to know that like this Yankees front office, the coaching staff led by Aaron Boone, who's now looking for a new contract with the New York Yankees, it's just shown that they're doing a right thing when it comes to developing these players.
Yes, they are.
And like that's just like really exciting to know. So we got to DJ LeMahieu, Luke Voigt for the offense, Gio Urshela, Clint Frazier for the defense. But now there is one player I think, Mike, that you brought up before that he might have struggled a little bit this season, and that was Gleyber Torres. What was your opinions on his 2020 season?
He really just dropped the ball for me defensively. Offensively, too. He didn't really have that great of offensive numbers. And defensively, he had 9 of the team's errors. Like, they trusted him enough to put him at starting shortstop. They traded Didi or they let Didi walk to Philly, and they put their trust in Torres, and he just kind of dropped the ball on that one for me.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been thinking, you think there's a chance Didi can come back to the Bronx, reunite him and Gleyber, because they worked very well together in that infield.
They did. With Gleyber on second and Didi at short, it was a very powerful infield, especially because you had Voigt at first and Urshela at third and LeMahieu going wherever you needed him to go. I would love to see Didi come back to New York. Desperately would love to see it. But I don't know. Cashman wants what he wants, and he's very fickle with money. So if they make him an offer, I hope he takes it. But it all comes down to who Brian Cashman wants in the first place.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be a very interesting offseason for the New York Yankees. So now let's transition into the 2020-2021 offseason for the New York Yankees. There's a lot of question marks. First things first, DJ LeMahieu. He's a free agent.
He's a free agent, but Sunday night they offered him the $18.9 million contract for only a year. I hope he takes it. They need him to take this contract. He has until the 11th to accept. But especially after this season, a lot of teams are going to be looking at him. A lot of teams.
Yeah, like if you want like my honest opinion and prediction, I think he's going to resign with the Yankees. He had a very productive 2 years with the New York Yankees.
He said he wants to.
Yeah, like that's the thing. And like he's not worth like $18.4 million, whatever the number that you said before. He's going to want like a $50-60 million deal for multiple years. And
yeah, it's definitely going to he's going to want multiple years out of that one.
And I honestly think that Brian Cashman would be smart enough to give him that because he was a productive player. First man up in the order, then you would have like an Aaron Judge hitting second. He was just that bat that the Yankees needed to start getting their offense rolling. So DJ LeMahieu, we are hoping that he resigns this offseason. Another question is our starting pitching.
Yeah, Tanaka and Paxton become free agents. Paxton, with the injuries, we saw him a little bit in the beginning of the season, saw him a little bit at the end, but that middle, his arm, is questionable there. They haven't offered anything to him yet. I could see them offering maybe something, but at the same time, I could see them making him walk. Tanaka, probably more definite that they'll offer him something. But again, it all comes down, they really want LeMahieu. So it all depends on, I think that's where, like, the 2019-2020 season, everything depended on what Cole said, because that's where most of their money went. With this season, I think they're going to try to get most of their money to LeMahieu just to see what he does.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you have to remember, when it comes to the New York Yankees rotation next year, you're going to have Garrett Cole, your number one starter. Luis Severino, he's going to be back in that. He's hoping to be back in that rotation next year.
They said that about him this year, though, with 2019, and he got injured again. It was just, Sevy's a great pitcher, but and that's the story with the Yankees in general. We need people who don't get injured. That's a big thing. Stanton and Judge, big guys who are very prone to injury. Do they want to keep being known as the next man up team? I love seeing the young guys get a chance, but I also love seeing, the staples. If you're going to market Aaron Judge as the next Derek Jeter, I want to see him being the next Derek Jeter.
Yeah, no, I absolutely understand that. And you saw in the 2020 postseason, Giancarlo Stanton hitting home runs all over Petco Park. Aaron Judge was having a very good postseason. Like, if those two guys can play like that through the entire season or for the majority of a season, the Yankees have a legit shot at winning a World Series in
Oh,
the
there's
near
no reason why
future.
we shouldn't. If if all our big staple players can play like they did in the postseason, there's no shot that we shouldn't at least make it to the World Series.
Mm,
But we're injury prone. That's the thing. We were injury prone, dropping the ball against the Rays in that 5-game series. That's where we get hurt.
Yeah, no, and definitely injuries were the big factor for the New York Yankees in the 2020 season. And now let's go to the bullpen. That's another big question that the Yankees have. They obviously have Aroldis Chapman as their closer. He's been a little bit on and off lately. What do you think about the bullpen needs for the 2020 offseason?
Bullpen needs good, reliable arms. I mean, 2019 we had that. We had Ottavino. We had Canely. We had Britton, who would come up, seventh inning, eighth inning before we put Chapman in. Those were your big four in the bullpen. They just re-signed Britton for 2 years. That's amazing, but at the same time, they let Canely walk. Canely's opted for free agency.
Yeah,
So, I mean, Green's in there. Chad Green, amazing guy. I've seen him. He steps up when we need it, but we need reliable arms in there.
and you have Ottavino in there too. He is very productive as well. And the Yankees have some young arms in there as well. Clark Schmidt made his debut this season. I think Debbie Garcia.
Debbie Garcia, yeah.
He made a couple good starts, but like now they definitely need some
A couple good
bullpen
starts
needs.
isn't going to cut it. We need reliable arms.
Yeah, so hopefully the New York Yankees can get that all situated. And now let's get to our final topic. Brett Gardner, veteran of the New York Yankees, has been there since 2008.
Gardner,
They declined his option for the next season. Do you think this is the end of Brett Gardner's not only his time with the New York Yankees but his Major League Baseball career?
look, Gardner will always hold a special place in my heart. Number 11 for always. But I can see him throwing in the towel on this one. He said he wants to play in 2021, but you know, especially with Clint Frazier in that outfield, Gardner is great. I don't think he's great enough. Um, as far as denying his option, he could wait to see what Brian Cashman does with money and then come back and renegotiate for a lower price because he does really want to play, and I do think he's not going to go to any other team. But like you said, since 2008, that's 12 years with a team. That's a long time with a team.
No, absolutely. And like when it comes to like Brett Gardner, like you feel bad for the guy. He's been there for a long time. He is the last person on the current team to be from the 2009 World Series
Serious.
championship team. Longest tenured Yankee, CC Sabathia previously held that, and now Brett Gardner has taken over with CC Sabathia's retirement. And like you mentioned before, the Los Angeles Angels, I heard some reports last offseason that they wanted to sign Brett Gardner, but Gardner's like, I want to be a New York Yankee. Like I totally understand that, and I hate to say it, but I kind of agree with you. I feel like it might be the last time we see Brett Gardner ever done the pinstripes, because when you think about it, you're gonna have Aaron Judge in right field. You're gonna have Aaron Hicks in center field. Clint Frazier had a really good coming out year, if you want to say that. Good postseason as well. I could see him and Stanton like sharing the duties and left because now Stanton just opted into his last 7 years of his deal with the
That's right.
Yankees.
I mean,
It's
whatever they do, I put my trust in the Yankees. I far be it from me to tell them what to do. Um, but it's going to be a bittersweet moment if Garner doesn't come back. That's what it's going to come down to.
no, absolutely. Like I think Brian Cashman is gonna make the best moves when it comes to the New York Yankees, and if Gardner's not part of those plans, maybe they're not. Because like when you look about it, the Los Angeles Dodgers, they got Mookie Betts. That was the last piece that they needed to their championship team. And now like y'all see they have Garrett Cole now, but like there's not really any big superstars that are on the free agency market this coming off season.
Not big ticket names, like Betts or Anybody like it's not like Judge is on the free market. It's not like Stanton is in free agency. So I mean, yeah, Tanaka's there, but I don't see many teams looking around for a starting pitcher more than batting, especially after the 2020 season where it was just like averages weren't where they normally are and stuff like that. So it's going to be interesting offseason, it really is.
Yeah, and I'm hoping that the Yankees make those moves. Like obviously, DJ LeMahieu's got to be re-signed. They got to add starting pitching. I'm hoping Tanaka comes back because he's very productive, especially in the postseason. He shows up under those big lights, and definitely some relief pitching. Obviously, I do think that they do. I think they have a chance of getting Tommy Kahnle back because I think he does love playing in New York. And another I won't say it's a question, but I honestly think that there might be a chance Didi can come back to the Bronx. Like he had a very productive year in Philadelphia.
He did. That's true. But at the same time, Girardi treats his guys right. Girardi went to Philly too.
That is true. Joe Girardi, former manager of the New York Yankees, won the 2009 World Series with them, won many as a catcher with the Yankees.
Girardi knows how to play ball. He really does.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be a very, very interesting offseason. And then with the moves that are made around Major League Baseball, and then the moves that Brian Cashman makes, it's going to be very interesting. Just one last point, going back to Garrett Cole, I'm going to read his numbers for you for the 2020 season. 7-3, 2.84 ERA, 94 Ks, and he had a WHIP of 0.96. He was pointed to as the leading candidate for the AL Cy Young, but he wasn't even nominated this year for the AL Cy Young. Shane Bieber just blew him out of the charts.
And especially at the beginning of the season, it looked like Garrett Cole was going to get it because you saw he was breaking records. He passed. I know one of the guys he passed or tied with was Roger Clemens, Rocket, for that win streak. But after, I think it was like his 21st or 20th game, then he started racking up the losses and then wins and then losses. And that's just really the story of the Yankees 2020. You had streaks of wins, streaks of losses, streaks of wins, streaks of losses. So
yeah, it's very interesting. And then last point here, the AL MVP decisions came out, but who's the top three? DJ LeMahieu, he's in that conversation. Luke Voigt's not.
Well, I think that's because, home runs aren't everything. Like when you look at Gary Sanchez, man swings for the home runs, but it just destroys his average. When he hits it, he hits 400 something, yard home runs, but that's only 2 out of 10 of the times. So yeah, you can lead a league in home runs, and Voit has a very good bat and a very powerful bat, but only a .277 average.
No, it's very interesting. Well, Mike, I appreciate you coming on the podcast today. I really appreciate it. I'm hoping that the New York Yankees have a very successful 2020 offseason and the 2021 season. Hopefully, it ends with the New York Yankees winning a World Series championship.
It's about time.
Well, I appreciate you coming on the show today. Thank you guys for watching. That was the first ever episode of BCTV. We will see you soon.